Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar for today that's been being put on by Vinteum software. I always say the wind beneath my wings for all of my webinars, so I want to say thank you to them right straight from the get-go, especially for this particular webinar. This is something that I think everybody out there who does not do electronic voting may think that this is a difficult thing to do. But when you hear this webinar and you find out how easy it is to get set up for electronic voting, you're going to be doing it tomorrow for your next webinar. Trust me. So get excited about it. Hold back. I've got a couple more things to go through. We have some housekeeping. First of all, this is not a EU course, so there's no credits to managers, but I hope you stay on because this might be educational for your board. This is also not a class for any board member to get a certificate from the state of Florida for your classroom credits for 2026 as a board member. However, if you want a certificate, send me an email, marketsmart01@gmail.com. I'm glad to issue an attending certificate. Okay. All right. With that said, please put your questions into the Q&A box. Do not put them into the chat. We do record the Q&A box only. You can say hello to us, and the sponsors that are on for today may put their information into the chat box for you, but there will be a sponsor sheet going out following the class with everybody's information on it. So with that, let me get started with introducing my sponsors. I'm so proud to have on today. Again, I'm going to say with Vinteum, I want to say thank you to Giulia. She does quite a bit behind the scenes marketing wise. We got Fabricio on today. And Laura, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and then I'll introduce the other sponsors. You can go into your class. So Laura is on today and she is the international rep for Vinteum.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Peggy. So yes, as Peggy mentioned, my name is Laura. I am the International Sex Executive here at Vinteum. I'll be conducting this webinar today. So I hope you guys really like it, and I hope you guys are, willing to get all this information. It's going to be incredibly good. We're going to be super specific, and we'll make sure to provide you with the most details and accurate information for you as board members, or even if you're property managers. I'm sure this will work for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, great. Looking forward to it. Now we have three power women on today on my power sponsor list. I'm going to start with Dahlia, who got on first. Dahlia Nice is on. She's from Legacy Life Plan. Dahlia, tell us about yourself and what do you do with your business?
So thank you, Peggy. Yes, Dahlia Anise, estate planning attorney with Legacy Life Plan. I do wills, trusts, and capacity planning, also kids protection plan. And so a question that has been coming up from many people is the following. Some people don't realize that if they give everything to their children, and then once their children pass away, if their child is married, that the spouse's child is going to inherit them, not the grandkids. And it always shocks them. They think that, okay, you know what? I created an estate plan. I'm leaving everything for my son or for my daughter, and then the grandkids are going to get it. And then when I ask them, it's like, did you actually specify that in your estate plan? Is it created to do so? They're like, what do you mean? And they don't realize that when someone passes away, if they're married, their spouse inherits them, and that spouse can remarry and never give anything to the grandkids. So it's really important for those who already have an estate plan to review their plan. This is something that I do a lot. People would come to me and they bring me their plan, and we go through it very thoroughly to make sure that these are their wishes. Because most people, they get their estate plan, they put the binder on the shelf, and they don't look at it for years and years and don't even remember what they put in their plan. So this is something I would be happy to do. I'm going to put the link in the chat for you to schedule like just a discovery call with me first, and then from that discovery call, we can make plans for me to get your estate plan and review it and have a full review meeting. You can also call my office and have them schedule that discovery call with you. So enjoy the webinar today.
Okay, thank you so much, Dahlia. Peggy unfortunately got dropped off of Zoom. Maybe it was something wrong with her internet. So I'm gonna pick it up here for her. Siobhan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and your business?
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Siobhan Gonzalez. I am the Director of Business Development and Client Relations here at United Professional Engineering. So, we are a full service structural engineering firm. We are locally owned, locally operating out of Palm Beach County, and we do serve Tri County. We've been taking care of condos for 21 years. Our team is licensed, trained, expertise in condominiums, all things from your building recertification, those milestones that you know are coming up, any concrete restoration or repair projects, issues with your balconies. We've been seeing a lot of roof replacements recently, garages, all of the things relating to your structure, even painting projects. I have a question that I want to share with you that comes up when I speak to a lot of my clients, and this is going to help you to know when to reach out to me. So everyone always asks, when do I call an engineer? So my question to you is, when do you call an engineer? And my answer is, call an engineer the second that you know you have an upcoming project. And the type of engineer that you want to call is someone that you know you can trust, someone who's built on integrity, whose highest value is ethics. You want to create that partnership before you have a problem. Be resourceful. It's all available to you. If you have any questions about your association or what you have going on, if you would even need to invite an engineer on what you have upcoming, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll be happy to answer your questions, help you navigate this, and we're happy to connect. So you can give me a call directly. I'll put my information in the chat. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I apologize. I got kicked off. So next, I want to introduce Diana Olert from Best Roofing. So Diana, tell us about yourself and what you're doing over there.
Yes, thank you so much, Becky. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm the Director of Business Development at Best Roofing. Best Roofing has been in business for 48 years this year. 48 years, that's a long time. We service absolutely everything in Florida, and every single repair that you need, every question, every roof, like absolutely everything on roofing, we'll do it. We are approved by most of the manufacturers. As you can tell, we've been doing this for a long time, so we're not going anywhere. We're here to help you with anything that you need. We want to be sure that you get provided the best services, and also that we help you right now, specifically that is, like hurricane season. We want to be sure that you have everything you need. So if you have any questions about how to get prepared, ready for everything, please let me know. If you have questions about your roof, if you have questions about absolutely anything that has to be with it, I will be more than happy to help you. Just leave them on the chat, or I put my information on the chat box also. You can email me. And thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. So now from the Power Women back to the Power Woman for Vinteum. Laura, I'll let you take it away and go into the class. And thank you, everybody, for joining today.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I'm going to take from here, I'm going to start conducting this webinar on e-voting. I will share my screen, and I'll appreciate if you guys let me know if you're able to see it.
Yes,
All good
ma'am.
from here? Perfect. All right. So let's start. Okay. We're going to go through this agenda today. First of all, what is electronic voting? Laws on electronic voting. Then the problem or, the difficulties that come with traditional voting. Then the benefits of electronic voting for all of your associations or condominiums or communities in general. And then I'll show you at the end some examples of how the online voting or how an online voting software would look like and should work for all of you guys. So let's get started. So first of all, what is electronic voting? Maybe for some of you, it's already clearing up. For some of you, it's not, or maybe you've never heard it before. So the process of electronic voting is the process of casting and counting votes using a digital platform or a software instead of paper ballots or in-person voting. It allows members to vote securely from their computers, their tablets, and if the software has an app or has some sort of way to have it on your phone, they can also vote through their smartphones. Okay? Now, before I continue and before I start, talking about some of the legislation in some states in the U.S. when it comes to e-voting, when I get into more details about this, I do want to make sure I do this disclaimer to you guys. This summary description of legislation provided is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. For the most current legal updates and specific guidance, please consult a qualified legal professional. Because as I will mention in a few seconds, there will be some specific details and regulations depending on your community, whether it's a condominium, whether it's an HOA, and also, and most important, where are you at right now? If you're in Florida, I know most of you probably are, but maybe we have some of you who are in another state who can be in, I don't know, Texas, California, North Carolina, etc. And it does tend to change a lot, okay? So with that said, let's continue. So for example, do you know, and as I just mentioned, 30 states in the US allow HOA electronic voting. Each state has its own rules, its own regulation. Some states actually don't even allow e-voting. Some have really no regulations at all, and some have very specific regulations, such as Florida, for example, right? So, laws on electronic voting. Back in 2024, the Florida legislature passed statutes provision 720-317, allowing associations to adopt electronic voting if they met certain conditions. Okay? As I mentioned, if you want to have more specific details when it comes to your community or to your specific case, again, I will suggest you to take a legal advice from a professional lawyer who is, specify on regulations for condominiums. But for example, HOAs in Florida are given more flexibility compared to condominium associations, right? That means your HOA rules and procedures matter just as much as the state laws. Still, even without identical rules, many legal professionals recommend that HOAs mirror condominium-style election procedures to help prevent confusion, disputes. Like if you make sure that everything goes as exact as the law, you will just not have any type of problem to think about it that will happen in the future. And for example, for California, as of January 1st of 2025, they can officially conduct most elections electronically with a few rules attached. Again, you want to make sure that you just go on deeper on more details with a specific professional, just if you want to make sure you don't have any problems or inconveniences going for e-voting. Okay, so let's talk about the problems with traditional voting. So the paper ballot method can be quite stressful for both the board and the residents. And if you're a property manager, can also be sometimes for you or for the property management company, right? So we have these examples here, and I'll go through each one of them. So we can all see the problems that can bring sometimes. Low turnout. Requiring members to attend in person or submit mail-in ballots limits participation, particularly for property owners who rent out their properties. For those absentee owners, I'm pretty sure a lot of you have right now nowadays snowbirds or residents that travel a lot abroad, or so they will probably not will be able to participate the same way as others. So that will be bringing that consequence of being a low turnout. Manual errors, and corruption. When you do this hand counting ballots can lead to mistakes due to, human oversight, as well as the potential for corrupt practices to influence the results. Whereas when you do e-voting, you wouldn't have any of those problems. Lost or late ballots. ballots. Postal delays or misplaced papers can cause voting losses, which can result in disputes in the future, in maybe some sort of problems with some residents or with other board members. So instead of going through those type of inconveniences and problems and just build a safe and engaging community, you can opt for e-voting and, again, not have those inconveniences happening. And last but not least, poor auditability. As mentioned, paper can facilitate corruption. Similarly, providing voting integrity can be challenging without a paper trail or secure record. Now, what are the benefits of electronic voting? Many communities are choosing e-voting for a smoother and more inclusive election process. So in those, we have higher participation rates if you have a tool or a system that will make sure that everybody is able to participate. Again, the snowbirds, the absentee owners, the people that live abroad or who are constantly traveling, that maybe on that specific moment where the voting was going to happen, they wouldn't be able to attend, or they're not in the association or the community. You would make sure that everyone participates from the facility of whatever they are at and from their phones, mostly. Time and cost savings. The digital environment can help you save significant time and money by eliminating the need of printing, postage, manual counting, even time most of the times. Transparency and easy auditing. Using digital tools like e-voting for board elections, specifically, guys, allows secure storage of voting records in detailed logs. So it will be a way to, again, make everything transparent and make everything as less corrupt as possible. You would obviously also be legally compliant. When done right, it can help your community meet state statutes and bylaw requirements. Immediate results. Again, this is time and cost saving, but especially time. When you are having your board elections or any type of really important survey or election that you want to have in your community, and you're doing it on a digital platform, the things are going to be faster, especially the results. This makes the election process, go smoother, more inclusive, and far less stressful for all of you board members and also for you property managers. All right, you would say, okay, what is the first step in order for us to have e-voting within our community? What is it that we need to do? The first, and I would say one of the most important things here, is that you need to agree with everyone in the community. And that means you need the consent from the members and also from the residents. Homeowners must opt into electronic voting, either in writing or electronically. The fact that you agree on having e-voting doesn't mean that it's a must for everybody to do e-voting, because there might be cases where maybe 2 out of 100 residents or absentee owners said, no, I don't want to do e-voting, I want to do manual voting. That is perfectly fine. Just make sure that if the ones who did agree to e-voting will be able to participate on that e-voting, and then you would have options for those ones who didn't opt in to e-voting. So that's what I just mentioned. No one can be forced to vote online, and you just have to make sure that you give options for everyone, all right, that you make it easier and engaging for all. So online voting software, some key features you should consider when choosing your next provider. If you do agree to go for e-voting, if members agree, if residents agree, if it's a decision that was made, you want to make sure that the software or tool you have for e-voting has some specific regulations as well, because the regulations, especially in Florida, have very important details that this software has to have. So those are verifications of voters' identity, role-based permissions. Remember, the only ones who can vote are owners, and it's 1 vote per unit. Compliance with state laws, automatic audit logs, and vote anonymity, right? This is one of the most important things that came out on the e-voting regulations, especially in Florida. What's most important is that it's 100% anonymous. So nobody can know, nor the board members, not the property managers, not even the provider of the software can know. It will just be the system automatically that will give you the results at the end of the process. So what we're going to do right now is that I'm going to show you guys how an e-voting software or tool would look like, in order for you guys to have an idea how it should look like, how it should work, what the type of a specification that it should have, but most important that it should be easy, right? I know a lot of you guys are board members who are volunteering. Some of you probably are not that tech savvy, especially also some residents that won't be tech savvy that much and will hesitate on going or taking this new tool, right? This new way of doing things, which can be complicated for some people to feel comfortable with. But the tool or the example that I'll show you right now, it's actually something that is completely easy to use. It's user friendly, and will make sure that everybody feels comfortable to go for this option. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys. So here, we have this tool here that is called specifically board elections. This tool does comply to every single of the regulations that at least the state of Florida has. And I'll show you how to set up a board election and how would residents or people be able to vote through this tool as well. So I will just click this plus symbol right here that says add. I will write down the title of this board election. Let's say for today, I can have some text here if I want to share some information or details to the community or to the people who are voting. I can select the date that this will start. Remember that for e-voting, there's also some specific processes that you need to follow prior to have your e-voting process. You need to let everybody know with, if I'm not mistaken, 60 days of anticipation. They need to have a notice or an actual communication sent by the board or sent by the property manager saying, hey, we're conducting this e-voting, we're conducting board elections. You need to let them know prior. So if we've already done that is when we can start, building this board election and this board election here. Let's say I'm going to have it activated for today and it's going to be closed tomorrow. I can also even choose the closing time if I or the board needs to have a specific time where they need to have the results. I can set that up. So maybe let's see, I want that to be on 5 p.m. I would choose anonymous vote, right? This is the option that we want to choose here because that's the option that requires e-voting to have. Then the question, you can have several questions, but then my question here will be who you want to be, let's say, our next president for the board. Again, this is just an example. You can, customize and edit this type of questions or these vote in the way you and the other board members prefer. I can have multiple answers, right? If I have 2 different members that are running to be president of the board, I can have then John here, and then I can have maybe Martha as well, competing for that board position. I can set up this alternative as well. Again, this is completely up to you, but this is how usually you would set up that board meeting to be done. We obviously require this answer. We already make sure it was anonymous. We have the activation and closing date. We set up the limit of alternatives to choose, minimum 1, maximum 1. So they have to yes or yes chose it. Oh, yes. Peggy, you have a question?
No, I have a comment. So I just want the audience to understand that Vinteum advertises or sells the entire country of the United States in addition to their country. So just one clarification, Laura, and this is just because you're not here in Florida. So the way for the new board members that are on from Florida, the way that the elections go is that everyone is voted in as a director. Okay, you are a director, and then amongst the directors, you vote yourselves in front of yourselves. You vote which person is going to be the president, the secretary, and the treasurer. Okay, so nobody from the community will elect a president. Nobody from the community will elect a treasurer, and no one will elect any of the officers, which are the 3 officers for the state of Florida that are only recognized. Everyone else is a director, which is still important because you still have a vote. But I don't want this to be misleading that you're going to be doing electronic voting to vote in a president or a treasurer or a secretary. Okay, so you're going to be voted in as a director. So anybody on this, you're voting for directors, and your bylaws, I'm sorry, your documents will state whether you have 5 board members. You have to have by law 3 board members. I don't care how big your community is, but you have to have 3, which is a president, a secretary, and a treasurer. Okay. The vice president is an optional position on the board. But everybody is a director until they become voted internally by the internal director group who is going to be what. Okay. So yes, the notice has to be given out 60 days in advance. And if someone wants to be added to the list, you have to do it prior to the 60 days so that you're on the 60-day notice through the property manager who's going to add you on, or the board president that is currently in office. So I just want to make that clarification. That's all.
No, thank you very much, Peggy. I appreciate. Again, as I mentioned, this is an example, but you do have to follow specific regulations for your community, whether it's in a condominium or an HOA. Just making sure about that. So going back to the example, when we have already all of these options set up, I can just go ahead and publish it. Are you sure you want to post the election? If a vote is registered, it will not be possible to edit it. Yes. It would obviously give you that, so you are 100% sure that you sent the right board election and that nothing that the residents vote or decide can be editable or can be changed. All right, so this board election has already been set up. I'm logged in as a master administrator on this tool, so that's why I was able to create this board election process. I can do it if I'm a board member, or if I'm the property manager, I can create this process. But you would say, okay, Laura, so what if I'm a resident? How do I go and vote here? How do I go in and make that decision? Let me show you that right away. So I would log in as a resident here. I will go to the board elections, and this will be basically the view that I would have as a resident. I have the board election that I just made that, you know, I can go vote in here. If you want to have some specific terms of consent for these board elections, you can edit and customize those options as well. Again, this is completely customizable. So if you do have a specific, you know, let's say text or info that you want to give to the members, to the residents before they, you know, vote, you can do that. Let's say I agree to this, and then the system will give me the option to vote. So I have the example we made, and I want to choose John. I choose John, I publish it. Another, you know, pop-up just letting me know, hey, once this answer is sent, it cannot be changed. I confirm that. And it's answered, and it's good to go. I cannot vote again. I cannot vote for, let's say, in another unit. I will be only responsible to vote for the unit that I'm owner. And that's how easy the process is to conduct an e-voting and to vote, or to have my voting sent through the system.
Laura?
Yes.
Can I just interrupt you real quick before you go
Sure.
on? So we have a few questions here. I'm gonna go by them as I see them. So Mary asked, if owners do not opt in to e-voting, then we still have to provide paper ballots, or does the software do this portion too?
No, when there is a resident, let's say, as I mentioned, like as the example before, you have 2 residents out of the 100 you have that were like, I don't want to do e-voting. The most typical option I would say would be just, keep doing the paper ballots to them so they can have the option that they prefer to vote. And then with the other ones who did opt in, you just can continue with the e-voting. But then that process of the paper ballots would have to be, manually counted by you or whoever is in charge with the board election.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So Tina asked, the board election feature can be used for any type of owner vote, not just elections, correct?
Yes, actually, the one that I showed you, or this tool, has 2 options here. We have board elections, which is specifically for board elections, and it's specifically the one that has the e-voting regulations. But if you just want to conduct, a regular survey like, hey guys, we're having a Halloween event, which day works best for your kids, and so on. Sometimes that, we want to have surveys, we want to make the community more engaged and participate into the decisions that were taken. You can use this feature here that's called voting survey, which is more, specialized on just helping you with those tasks. You can even you have more options here, as you see. You can have open vote. You can have participants visualize partial results. You can notify participants as well. You can have the board review the vote. There are more options, whereas with the board elections, it's more strict, let's say.
Okay, so, Peggy, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say that possibly whoever asked that question is wanting to know that for maybe architectural approvals, because most of the condominium documents have a rule that you have to have either 51% vote to change the color of the building or 75% vote, and some of them have 100% vote. So go by your documents, contact your attorney, and ask your attorney how to put that on your e-voting to make sure that you have what they call a quorum. A quorum would be the 51% or the 75%. It could be 66 and 2/3%, representing 2/3 of the community, or even the 100% vote to change. And some of those things are major to some of the communities. I mean, being down here in South Florida, sometimes, all pastel colors. Well, all pastel colors to you might not be that bright yellow. It might be a soft yellow. So there's some differences there. But again, consult your attorney when you're trying to do anything but voting for a particular director at the time you're trying to get your officers into place. Okay, so there's other things to vote on that are
Okay,
important.
perfect. Thank you, Peggy. Yeah, Tina just replied to you and she says, yes, correct, Peggy. So I think you answered that one for us. So thank you. So going back, we have a few other questions. So Anthony asked if it's really secure to do e-voting. I mean,
Yes, it is secure. Again, the tool that I'm showing you does comply 100% to all Florida regulations. Specifically, I'm talking about this state. It does keep everything anonymous. It does keep everything, to the system. Nobody will be able to see the results, to see who voted for who, or to change or edit any type of information that was sent to the system. Not even the developers of this tool or the people who is in charge of maintenance of this tool. So it is 100% secure. Also, you would say, right, but like, what if, like, how do you go into this tool? How do you go into this portal? For example, at least for this tool, there is, this is a password protected portal. So that means that whoever has access to this portal itself needs to have a username and a password that will be given by the provider that built this. So it's 100% secure for nobody external from the community to get in and to vote, and also for nobody to have access to the information or the votes that were sent on the e-voting system.
okay, so I'm just gonna go 2 more and then we can go back. or maybe we can keep answering them. So David asks, can you broadcast to the membership these two longtime board members have used up their years of being on the board? So we need to get at least 5 members to fill out the necessary paperwork to be on the new board. If you didn't catch that, maybe you can open the question so you can read it
Sure, I think I
because
will.
it's a bigger one.
Can I comment first, please?
Sure,
Oh yeah.
Peggy.
Okay. 2 years ago, they passed the law that said that the board members can be in office now for 8 years. Okay. Now, this could be a misunderstanding on whoever's writing this question, but it's 8 years from 2 years ago. So if someone has been on the board for 20 years, then they actually could be on the board for 28 years. Okay. So they are not required to get off for 8 years starting from 2020. I want to say 24. So check with your attorney on that. But what that means is they can stay on the board in any director position. Because again, when you vote for a director, you're not voting for an officer in the director category. You're voting for a director. And then that, if you were trying to juggle the position around where the president is no longer the president, you can do that by voting amongst yourselves, and they can still stay on the board for 8 years. Okay, so just to recap, 2 years ago, it started 8 years all over again. Someone who's been on the board for already 10 years, 5 years, 20 years can stay on the board for an additional 8 years, and then they would have to get off. Now, one more thing I'd just like to mention, which is not part of the voting, but it is part of the structure, and that is if you get off of the board for a year or longer and you want to get back onto the board, then that starts a new sequence of 8 years, number one. And number two, you have to retake all the courses to be certified as a board member. Okay, so that means you have to start over with the 4-year certification the first year. And then after that, you have to take the 1 year or the 1 hour class for the 1 hour certification for the 7 years following. So that's just some clarifications for Florida.
Thank you so much, Peggy. Again, your input is always appreciated. You're like right there for us with your insights. So, another person asked, does your platform meet Florida consent requirements online? Is the consent language edible, or does the association already have to accomplish paper consent prior to deployment of your product?
Okay, so the platform is compliant. Consent can be collected after a voting is created, for example. And when the owner finds the feature, it will ask them to consent before they can vote also. Yeah.
Okay. So Carol asked, does Vinteum provide software for board elections, as I do not see it under board elections on the website?
Yes, we do. We do. We know it's e-voting, and that's the most common name nowadays, not only in Florida, but in other states as well. So we probably just, put it as e-voting. But here on the platform itself, it's called board elections. But you can, you can be assured that the board election, it's the same exact thing as e-voting tool, and it does comply to all the regulations.
Okay, so Mary also asked, so I own 3 units in the condo. I have a different login for each unit.
I would have to double check that with the support team so that I give you specific information. But what I can assure you is that if you do have if you own 3 units on the within the community or the condominium or association, you would have the right to have 3 votes because you own those 3 units. So it could be either on the same profile, you can have the 3 units, or you would have a different login for each. But I will double check that information and reply to you in just a few minutes, okay?
Yes, Peggy, go ahead.
It has to be 3 separate votes, 3 separate passwords. Because that's the only way to document 3 different units. So at the end of the voting time, you say, okay, we have 100 units, 100 people voted, 97 people voted, 22 people voted. It has to be 3 separate votes.
Okay. So we also have another one here, which is like, so you can offer surveys online when not using the voting module. I'm not sure I understand that one.
So you can offer
Repeat
servers.
that.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just was going to say, repeat that.
So David said, so you can offer surveys online when not using the voting module?
So remember,
In
like
other
when
words,
you
paper ballots, excuse me. Paper ballots, just please clarify whoever wrote that question in. So in other words, you can have a combination of paper ballots and electronic voting, if that's what you're asking.
Okay,
It doesn't
so
have to be all or none, all or none.
mm-hmm.
okay. So let's go to Anthony. He said, should surveys always be anonymous?
Depends. I think it really like the board elections do have to and must be anonymous, 100%. However, if you want to have other type of service and within your association, will be up to you if you want to keep it anonymous or not. Like as I mentioned the example of the Halloween event, it's up to to the board, to the community if they want to have that to be anonymous or not. But you will have the option, as I mentioned here on the voting survey tool, you have the option to either make it 100% anonymous or not.
Okay, so also Becky asks, are you later going to address the cost of e-voting and subscriptions?
Sure. It will depend. So if any one of you, and I think we can already jump to that part here. If any of you is interested in having the e-voting or the platform or the software for your community, or again, if you work as a property manager for the communities that you work with, you'd like to integrate that to your system, or maybe the system that you're using right now, it's not helping you with that. It will be a different case depending on your community. So this is what we're gonna do, guys. I will make sure to send my information here. You can directly contact me. I will be super on top of either the emails. I can contact you through phone, and I can check the specific details on your community. What is it that you guys are looking for? If you're a condominium or an association, etc. Okay, because it will be more tailored towards what you guys are looking for, and or if it's just the e-voting tool per se. And I just wanted to go back to the question from I believe was, let me just double check, from Mary, and of if I own 3 units and the condo have a different login for each unit. So yes, as Peggy said, you would actually have 3 different profiles for each unit. So 3 usernames, 3 passwords, meaning 3 votes. Just clearing that up. You can continue with the other questions, Julia.
Oh, okay. So, we have one here. If someone, resident, board member, etc., challenges the validity of any election result and demands an audit, how is that addressed when no one can see the underlying vote data?
Oh, let me read that one more time. If someone okay, so for example, on this software, what happens, and I'll explain that process to you because I think that is important. Because your question, and thank you very much for that question, because that brings me to explain some specifications on how the e-voting works, especially for audits. So because the voting is the vote will be completely anonymous, you would say, so how do we know that the 100 units that we have in our community actually voted? How do we know? So what the system will do is that will assign a token number to each unit, right? So unit A will have this token number, unit B would have this other token number, and so on. So what would happen is that every time a unit votes, you would get an email, depending if you will be the board member in charge of getting these notifications, or the whole board will get a notification to their email by the system saying this token number voted. Obviously, the system won't let you know for who or anything like that. It would just let you know, hey, this token number assigned to unit XY voted, right? So that way you can have, you know, a checklist making sure that every single unit voted and what was the token number assigned to that. So you can show that to whoever is requesting for an audit and say, hey, all these token numbers are different and each unit has a specific and particular token number assigned to it. So this is how we audit that, those votings specifically. I hope this answered your question.
Laura, a little bit still on this token situation. So David asked, can we have that token number be their mailbox number? So I think he's asking like if the token can be manually, like we can create a different specific one the way that the community wants.
I will have to double check on that specific information. I believe the token number is created by the system itself, but we can see there's options to make it customizable. Let me just get to that question to the support team and I'll answer that real quick.
Yeah, Peggy, you can go ahead.
So for clarification for me as well, because I'm trying to promote you guys over here in the States, is token number the same number as the unit number?
No.
Okay.
No, it's an alphanumeric number, for example. You know, it's like a code to
Right.
identify this unit.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So each unit number correlates to your code?
To a code, yeah, to a token number. So you know
So
that, you know, 100 units voted because you have 100 token numbers that actually went there and voted.
But you don't know which 100 by unit voted.
Yes, you would see, yeah, basically, because that's the way that it keeps everything anonymous. You can see the token number and you can see what this token number like that they voted, but you cannot see like who they voted for. You would just be able to see the results at the end.
Okay, so you cannot see each unit number that voted.
Or for who they voted.
By number, unit by number.
Exactly.
Well, okay.
And I think to close it out, Peggy, we have an anonymous attendee that asked a question that I think relates to what you were saying before. So if you can go ahead and help us answer that. I'm going to read it, but if you want to read it there also, because it's a big one.
Okay.
I am confused because I thought you said that the 8-year term limits for continuous board service starts in 2024. The Condominium Act was amended in 2018 for 8 continuous term limits and only applies to those board members elected and serving continuously after 2018. Did I mishear the discussion? Or are you specifically discussing someone elected in 2024? I'm not sure how to answer that.
Yes,
So.
okay, all right. So that is a little confusing. I apologize. So in 2018, everybody starts from scratch. That's year one, if you're on the board on 2018. But I was trying to say, if you were on 2024, you know, and you already had, you know, been on the board from 2018, yes, to 2024, which would be like 6 years, then they have 2 more years to be on the board. But if they got on in 2024, then it would be 8 more years. So it's 8 years if you had, from the time you get on the board. Now, if you get off the board and get back on the board, it starts completely over again. So I misspoke. I meant the year that the law was changed, which I believe was 2018. But 2024 was just something I was using because it's 2026. In other words, if they're trying to get somebody off the board now, if they got on in 2024, they still have 8 or 6 more years, I guess, from 2024. You know what? And if you're still not clear, call your attorney just to double check, okay? Just
Yes, we
always call your
cannot
attorney.
stress that enough. Yes, please contact your attorney. Like
Thank
Laura
you.
said, many times the state regulations vary from state to state. So there's really no way of us being able to answer everything. So if you're unsure, contact your attorney. So I'm gonna read the last question here. We need to be able to authenticate the owner's identity. Can we do this?
So, as I mentioned, on this example for this portal, each owner and will have its password his username and password, right? So that will be the main way to identify that that owner was the one who voted, because they have their own username and password, which is obviously only given to them. If they choose to share that information with someone, it's something that, you won't be able to control. But that will be the main way for you to identify that that owner, it's the actual one who voted, because they are the only ones given with that username and password to get into the platform, get into the board election, and send their vote.
Okay, let me just interject there, Laura, because I think this is something I still have a question with. I was going to ask you about later. They have to know, out of the 100 units, let's just use a round number, that unit number 2, 52, 59, 60, 74, 29, 100 voted. Not how they voted, but that they voted. So that's why I was asking, does your number correlate to a unit so that they can get a print off that says 62 voted by electronically and the numbers were, and then the paper ballots come in. We have 29 paper ballots and those numbers were, so there's not a double voting or duplicate voting issue. And then also that they have a record of, they had a quorum of the amount of votes. So they need to know what the unit number is if they vote electronically. Not what they voted or who they voted for, but they need to know the unit number. Not your number, their unit number. Is that what you can do that, or you cannot?
I believe can you repeat that, Peggy? I think I misunderstood a little bit.
Okay, every property has unit numbers, 1 to whatever their numbers are. Okay. You said that each vote would be your electronic number that would tell them that they had 100 people vote or they had 50 people vote. But way you explained it, I thought it meant that you did not know which exactly unit number voted. They need to know which unit number voted. It can correlate to your number, but there has to be some way to identify what units voted and what units did not vote.
Okay, gotcha. Yes. And I think as I was listening to your question, it's kind of similar to the one that we have here on the Q&A. So let me just re-explain myself to explain how does the process work and how does the audit process would work if at some point you guys need to have that inspection, or if any resident or board member wants to double check, hey, how did this work? How do you guys make sure that all units voted and where the votes came from? So one more time. Each unit, let's say we have a community that has 100 units, right? Each unit will be assigned a token number. When this unit A, let's say, voted, the notification you will get will be this token number voted for this person. You wouldn't know what you would know that you have 100 token numbers, but you wouldn't know which token number is assigned to which unit. That's what keeps it anonymously, but that's what keeps the audit process accurate, because you would know that the token numbers voted. That's how we would basically work. I hope this answers also to your question, Peggy.
Yeah. Well, it's going to have to be modified some way that you can indicate which unit number voted by the association's unit number. Because they have to be able to avoid any duplicate voting, number one, paper versus e-voting by unit number. Because let's just say there's 100 people in the community, 100 people got on there and claimed they voted electronically, but then there's 32 of them turned in paper ballots. So it's going to be 132. There's only 100 units. So somebody duplicate voted. So we have to know, they have to be able to check off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 100, which units voted.
Absolutely.
And there might be somebody who did it by mistake. They might have didn't remember they voted electronically for whatever reason, and they turned in a paper ballot too, because we get people here in my unit community that knock on our door all the time. Did you turn in your paper ballot? Did you vote electronically? Okay. My husband voted electronically one time. I voted, paper at the door because I didn't think he did, but yes, he did. So there was a duplicate right there. When we found out, we called the next day and said, oh, he told me he voted and I didn't know it, so remove my ballot. So, there's some things that can come up, and it has to be very clear what unit number voted and did not vote. You can work on that.
Definitely. And absolutely. I think that relates to a lot of the questions I'm seeing here on the box as well. So when it comes to the audit process, it always relies on these token numbers. The system we've already been conducting e-voting and board elections with our tools since last year, like how a lot of communities in Florida have already conducted it. We haven't had any type of inconveniences of having repeated token numbers, or maybe one unit being able to vote twice, or any type of problems like that. The system does make sure that each unit just has one option and one, each unit can only have one vote. As I mentioned, one vote per unit. So there wouldn't be any type of inconveniences of one unit having two options or three options to process a vote. And on the audit process, it makes sure that, the votes keep being anonymous, but it does allow the community to make sure that every unit voted, every unit that opt in into the e-voting voted. Now, if you have, let's say, 2 units that were like, hey, no, I don't want to do e-voting, I want to continue with the paper ballots, then we would obviously have to set up the board election to be only sent to those specific units that want to participate on that. So those 2 units that decided to opt out or not to do e-voting wouldn't even get the option to vote on the e-voting. So they wouldn't get an option to do e-voting and a paper ballot.
Okay, so I'm seeing some other questions here. Again, if Laura doesn't have the specific answer to your question, maybe it's more within our customer support teams area, maybe something specific about the software. We will make sure, like Peggy said in the beginning, we are recording the Q&A, so we will make sure to get everything that you guys asked and reply to you as soon as we can, if we can't address it right now. Peggy, you raised your hand for a quick second there. Do you? Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. You did it again? No, again? Okay. Um,
Okay.
anyway, we'll go ahead. So Brian asked, does audit contain IP address?
So, for example, and I want to go back to what Giulia said, you would obviously, guys, have a lot of like very specific technical questions that we would have to get in touch with our technical support team that has all these various specifications on the software, these IP addresses, how will the token number look like, everything, all these specific technical things on how the process works. We can answer that to you on the follow-up email so that we give you the most accurate and clear information. Okay, you guys?
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Laura. So somebody said that you have no right to know whose token belongs to. And I think that says, that goes back to what Laura was saying about how the board will not know, they will just, the audit will be based on the number of units. You cannot know which unit voted for who,
Yeah,
to
which
keep it
unit voted
anonymous.
to keep it anonymous. Exactly. That's how, the system basically keeps it anonymous. You wouldn't know, like, you would know that the unit voted, you just wouldn't know who the unit voted for. I see another one here. It says by Tina, it says, if they consent to electronic voting, they should not be sent a paper ballot. Exactly. And same thing otherwise, if they did, if they did not consent to e-voting, then they won't be able to do the e-voting process through the platform. So that way, we keep everything fair and it's only one vote per unit.
Okay, so Laura, you can go ahead and take a look at the Q&A. Just to check if there's any other questions that you would think we could answer right now, or if there's anyone that we could, um, like Laura said, use our support team, and to help you and to help us answer this question to you. But while Laura checks the Q&A, I'm just going to read. It's not really a question, it's more of a comment from Rosina. She says, just to remind all that paper ballots are also anonymous. The
Yes.
association keeps only the outer envelopes as proof of voting. And then she said a personal comment, e-voting is the best. I have used several times for a 96 owners condominium, saved the postage envelopes and a long meeting counting ballots. All and all the association saved about 600 for each time we needed a vote. Yeah, Peggy?
Okay, so what she's saying is they kept the outer ballots because it indicates which unit voted. Okay, so if you're doing e-voting, which I think is awesome, you still need to know which unit number voted, because otherwise you could have duplicates.
Exactly. You would know that that the units voted. You just wouldn't know who they voted
Yeah,
for.
what they voted for or
Yeah,
who they
exactly.
voted for.
Exactly. And that also, I think there's another ones in here. Blood potential. When it comes to the ballots. So does the software count the ballots? And I also saw another one where it says like if the system sent the ballots to the people, no. When these will be paper ballots, so that will be entirely managed by whoever is in charge of doing this paper ballots for the residents who do not want to opt in into e-voting. Our system won't send any paper ballots to them.
Okay, so I think maybe the rest of the questions where I think you got a chance to look at them. Maybe some of them are more specific to our customer support team. Is there any other one that you would like to answer right now?
I think there's another one from Mary. So if you opt in, then you cannot vote paper, correct? Just like if you opt out, you do not have an option to e-vote. Exactly. I mean, obviously, residents are free to choose, but once they've made their choice, or once they have already let you know, prior to the voting, when you've already sent the notice and the actual communication, letting everybody know, hey, we're having this board election within 60 days. If they already had made the decision to opt in or opt out, they have to, continue to that option. Because if they already opt out and you already made the board election process, or you send the board the e-voting process, then that will create confusions. Then maybe they would end up having two options to vote. So it's best to just make sure that the residents make their choice before the board election is made and sent, which will help to give everybody freedom, but also to make sure that there's no confusions and no unit voting twice, which is what we're mainly looking for with the e-voting process. Can you show us what the reports look like for the voting? Maybe this will answer the questions of validations. I will have to double check this with the technical support team as well, because we don't have any specific demo reports for these type of e-votings. We've done it with some communities. We can see if we have some specific examples where we can just show that to you, maybe send you some documents that show that to you guys on the follow-up email, so you see specifically how that will look like for you guys that are, concerned on knowing how the audit process would work, how is the token number process work, how can I know that you're just one unit, like the one unit voted once and not twice. But that will be something that I would have to double check with the technical team in order to provide you again with the most clear and accurate information. Where do we set up that an owner opted in for e-voting so the system knows they are eligible to vote? So there are ways to have them to make sure that as a board member or as a property manager, as a community, you know that they have opt-in. This can be done electronically as well. So you can send out a survey or a voting option for them to be, hey, which of you guys would like to opt in for electronic e-voting, right? You would send that. You can do that. You can do that to the platform. It doesn't have to be anonymously, of course. So you have a record on saying, hey, you as an unit owner decided and sent us your consent to opt in for e-voting. You can keep those records of those votings and of those. Let me just double check if I have any of those in here. Yeah, you can conduct those surveys here or that voting to ask your residents, hey, which one of you would like to opt in for electronic voting? We just want to know and make sure which unit would like to opt in from now on, and you can do a voting or a survey here through the platform to have those records with you, making sure that you can show them, you have them for your board records, letting them know, hey, we already have your answer and you opt in, so we're going to include you on the next e-voting or board election process. Or for those who said no, then we also have those records here, where you said or you voted no, and then we will just continue with the paper ballots with you. Tina, we do not send paper ballots to those ones who didn't opt in into e-voting.
Okay, so as I see a couple of ones that we have right now, the one about the IP address, I think that is something that our customer support team will know more.
Yeah.
And there's this other one, Laura. I think the concern is, does the system lock a credential out after the vote is cast?
I think the concern is, does the system lock a credential out after the vote is cast? I don't know if you can maybe rephrase that question. I am not sure if I understood it correctly, to be honestly.
Yeah, Peggy, your hand has been raised for a while.
No, I don't want to monopolize this, but just clarification wise. So the recent question about, on the IP address, once they vote, they cannot go back in, right? They
No,
cannot go back in? All right,
no, they
so there's
can't.
the answer to that. The other thing I just was going to stress is to everybody, one of the features or things that I love about Vinteum is that once you make a decision to go with Vinteum, they're going to have one-on-one training with your board and your manager. Okay, so if you are considering this, of course, you want to talk to Laura to get it set up, but then after that, you can have one-on-one training. And then after you're set up, if you have another question in 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years down the road, you can still call them back up and they will go through it again and again, because boards do change. They understand that, and managers do change. So very important to know that you do have access to them directly for clarification, at any time.
Absolutely. And thank you very much, Peggy, for bringing that out, as I see a lot of you are super concerned, and it's really important, obviously, for all of you board members, board presidents, property managers, to really have a solid and transparent and not corrupted process when it comes to e-voting or board elections. You would, and I will reinstate Peggy on this, you would be trained with our technical support team that is way more knowledgeable when it comes to the system, how the board election will work, how will be the process after the board election is made, how are the notifications, how will be the audit if at some point you would need to audit or someone within the community wants to double check, hey, how did this happen? Why did this person won? I want to just double check. If maybe they're hesitating on the system, they can also join into let's say a Zoom meeting with our technical support, and you can double check that directly with them. I just want to make sure you guys feel that this is a trusted system, that our support technical team will make sure that everything is incredibly clear and transparent for every single one of you guys there. So all these type of, as I mentioned, specific technical things or concerns you're having that are incredibly important and that are, crucial for the engagement within the community will be resolved if you do decide to, get e-voting with Neighbors or get the platform. This will be completely clear up and trained and supported by our technical team 100%. Not only on chat, not only on phone, not only on email. You can even jump into a Zoom call. We will train you and we will make sure that everybody, not just board members, not just the property manager, even residents can do it, join in and feel, the trust on the system. Okay?
Okay, yeah. So we got a couple more questions while you were speaking, Laura. I think you might see them. So Rosina asked, does Vintium help with e-voting consents?
So Rosina, this will be more, as I mentioned, like if you do want to have those consents to be within the system, to be something that is like accessible to all the board members, to have there on your records, you can have those, let's say, that consent sent out to the residents as a regular survey or voting process, where they can just vote, where the question can be, hey, do you consent your unit X, Y, and U to opt in into our e-voting tool? Obviously, again, there will be specific regulations to do this process. We can help you out with that. You can get in touch with maybe a lawyer or your property manager to make sure everything is, correctly sent on that survey. You can send that. The residents will answer yes or no, and then you will have the records to know which unit opted in, which unit did not opt in. That's how we can maybe help you out with that. It's just, to send a survey within the system. Is there an additional charge to have the e-voting software on the website? If so, how much is it? Well, it depends if you already have the website or any type of product already with us Neighbors. But then again, the case on the pricing will be different depending on how many units does your community have? What are the specific features you're looking for? If maybe not only e-voting. Yeah. So the price will be more tailored to each one of you. So I would not, I would prefer to not give any specific pricing because it can change depending on, again, the units, what you guys are looking for, maybe what's the budget, what plans we have, etc.
Okay, so I think we can wrap it up. What do you think, Laura? I think we
Sure.
answered most of the questions.
Yes, I think we can wrap it up from here. I know a lot of you guys are here as, as volunteers. You were super on top of, making sure you know all the information on how e-voting works, what tools work, what will work for you guys. And I cannot appreciate enough you guys coming here, being so interested on asking all those questions. I will personally make sure that on the follow-up email, we answer to all of those specific technical questions each one of you had. Edward, Becky, Tina, all of you had very specific questions, and I'll make sure to answer to that as clear and accurate as possible. So you have all the information from the system. And yes, if any of you, again, as I saw, it's interested on getting to know more about the e-voting, maybe getting a quote, maybe getting some info about the pricing and everything, we will send the information. I will send the information as well, or maybe Giulia can also help me out with that, where you guys can get in touch with me, or you can also, send me that info on the chat, and I will get in touch with any of you guys. Okay?
Okay, so let's throw it back to Peggy. Peggy, are there any future webinars you would like to announce?
Yes, I would. Thank you so much. And thank you for great information. I think e-voting is the way to go. And feel free to reach out to them at any time. And I just want to lastly mention something that I know we weren't focusing on it today, but they also do have a free website opportunity in addition to this e-voting service, just to make sure that you're compliant in general with the state of Florida laws of having a website if you're a condominium and you have 25 units or more. With that, I'm just going to say I do have coming up on Tuesday, the 26th next week, we have Coffee with the County again. It's hurricane season around the corner on June 1st. So they are going to discuss what to do with your pets for hurricane season. Then on Friday, the 29th, I've got Dan Wasserstein coming. He's an attorney speaking on fining. So I will be sending flyers out for that. And then past that, we're going to go into June. And the next exciting event I have is a webinar, virtual webinar, free webinar on the Construction Summit, which is going to cover elevators. We have an elevator consultant coming in, and we also have an attorney in construction law defects, and I'm recruiting an engineer right now as well. So have a nice memorial and a safe Memorial weekend, everybody. Thank you, audience, and thank you, Vinteum, once again. And if I can help you in any way, please reach out at any time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you for coming.
Bye-bye.